Welcome to Harvey County Talk, a program brought to you by Harvey County Digital. Harvey County Talk, where everything we talk about is the only thing you want to know about local matters that matter. I am your host, Lance Gormley. Our sponsor for this episode is Hall's Tree Service. Hall's Tree Service is locally owned and operated, and it has been exceeding and surpassing customer demands in Newton and the surrounding area for over 40 years. Larry and his crew are guaranteed to work hard for you. Remember, there's no tree too tall, no job too small. Call Halls at 316-772-1919. Our guest for this episode is Kansas House 72nd District Representative Avery Anderson. Avery was born and raised in Newton, Kansas. He attended Newton Public Schools, graduating in 2015. Avery later went on to become a Jayhawker, graduating from the University of Kansas in 2019 with a bachelor's in political science. He's a man after my own heart.
That's right.
After graduation, Avery moved back to Newton, shortly thereafter filing and running to represent the people of the 72nd District. Avery was elected in November 2020 and took office in January 2021. Welcome to the program, Avery, and thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me, Lance.
All right, I just got to say this right away. When I initially talked to you and asked you to come on the program, we had a conversation about you're kind of apprehensive because there had been some other people that had asked you to come on a program and talk with them. And I was like, come on, Avery, you got to show some love to your Harvey County people here, And so we had a discussion about it, and I just want to say, for those listening and know who John Whitmer in Wichita is, Avery had an opportunity to go on John's show, and he decided to come on mine first. So he is free now to go and have many, many interviews with John, and that would be great, and we hope that he does.
That's right. I'll definitely be getting a call from John now.
Yeah, no,
Absolutely.
I'm sorry. I just have to. I know John, and it's just kind of a teasing thing. He has a really big program.
He does. John's
and
great.
A huge following. So, for us small town guys, I appreciate that, Avery. I do. So just kind of unpacking Avery a little bit. You're a Newton native, so you were what? Born in Newton?
Born and raised.
Born and raised in Newton.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then where did you, for Newton people, where did you go to elementary school at?
Yeah. So I went to Northridge Elementary.
Cool.
And then went to Santa Fe. And I was kind of the part where they switched up the 6th, 7th at Santa Fe and then moved us over to Chisholm in 8th grade. And so I was there during the switchover. So went to Chisholm during 8th grade and then obviously our one Newton High School.
Bet. That's awesome. So Railer through and through.
Yep.
Railer through and through. Okay. I've never asked you this or whatever, but when you were in high school, did you do any like extracurricular programs and stuff? Did you play basketball, football?
Yeah. So played basketball and played golf.
Okay, cool.
Yep. So I enjoyed it. Played basketball just freshman year, but then played golf all the way through. Loved it. Thought about playing in college, but just went to school.
Yeah. Still playing golf?
Yep.
Okay. Did you, surely when you were at college, you played golf? You just didn't compete.
Correct.
Right? Okay.
Exactly.
Okay. I was going to say you didn't give it up or anything.
No.
Okay. So you're in high school, you're getting ready to graduate, you got options, so you could say you want to, go be K-State, Wichita State. I'm sure you had some options where you wanted to go. Why specifically did you want to be a Jayhawker?
Yeah, I think since diapers I grew up a KU fan.
Okay.
And so watching KU basketball and even football growing up, I absolutely loved it, and that's kind of, if I didn't play golf in college, I knew that's where I was going to end up.
Cool.
Yep.
Very cool. Yeah, no, so is your alumni?
Yep.
I've been into your grandpa's place,
Yep.
and he has a lot of KU stuff.
Yep.
Was he a KU alumni
my
too?
grandpa did, he did go to KU.
Cool.
My dad was Wichita State.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Shockers.
Yep.
Yeah, divided household.
That's right.
Divided household. But that's cool. So you followed in your grandpa's footsteps.
Absolutely.
Yeah, he was probably proud of that.
Yep.
Buddy. Yeah,
Yep,
yeah.
he was.
So while there, any notable things? Like what's something about KU that you really enjoyed?
I touched on it briefly, but big KU basketball fan.
Okay.
And I think I missed 3 games in 4 years there. So
very cool.
Went to a lot of games there. But no, I mean, the campus is beautiful. The political science program is great there, and I absolutely loved KU.
Very cool. Very cool. Yeah. So I guess moving on, after college, right? You graduated. Okay. Did you think about going on to get further education at that time, or were you just kind of set on, I need to go home and take a little bit of a break, or what?
Yeah. So absolutely. Thought about going to law school. So when I graduated, I actually went to Washington, D.C., and interned for Senator Roberts, and it was kind of a post-graduation internship. And when I came back, I actually planned on going to law school, and then jumped into running for office instead.
Okay. Opportunity presented itself. Yep. That's what happens sometimes. We have our mind going in one direction, and something changes.
That's right.
So you get back. Of course, during that time, that would have been really close to, well, when the election was, right?
Yep.
So then you're looking at it, and I know the consensus was in the community at the time that there was a lot of disenfranchisement maybe with the current or the sitting representative at that time.
Yep.
And so I know even myself included with that.
Sure.
I think a lot of people had that consensus, and that's why you were elected. But with all that being said, so you get back and you're looking at this as an option. What made you decide to finally drop the hammer?
Yeah, like you said, definitely. I don't think that our representative at the time was representing the district the way it deserved or should have been represented, and so we needed a switch. And it was a four-way primary, obviously. And so I think we had good conservatives in the race, and I thought, go out and talk to as many folks as possible, and I thought that our past representative was beatable.
Yeah.
And I jumped in and knocked on a lot of doors and talked to folks, and it worked out.
Yeah, and that was really good. I was very, in the end, very glad.
Yeah.
To see you be successful.
Well, thank you.
Honestly, absolutely. So most people, I'm not going to say this rule of thumb, but in a lot of ways, when you're running for election, a primary is a completely different election. I mean, you're running two full-on, full-out elections back to back. So you are there on primary. You did your due diligence.
Mm-hmm.
You knocked on the doors. You made contact with people. You expressed your viewpoints and hoped that would resonate with voters.
Yep.
So you're there on primary night. You're looking at what's going on. Put me in Avery's state of mind right there.
Yeah, I felt like it would be close. I definitely didn't go into it 100% thinking that I was going to walk away with it. I knew it was going to be a close one. But as the results came in, it was obviously a very fun night towards the end. But then right when that was over, it's get back to work to do the real job of beating the Democrat incumbent, and that's why we all got in the primary.
In the first place, mentioning that, you say on the primary night, I don't know very many primaries where you have four candidates running, so it's kind of hard to, when you're strategizing, how do you cut that cookie?
Yeah, exactly.
It's like you don't have one person,
right?
You have three different people that in a primary you're running against. Do you think, in just your opinion, does that change some of the dynamics of what can happen in a primary?
Absolutely. I think our four-way primary was the only four-way that cycle. We had the largest, and you definitely have to look at it differently. You have to look at everybody who's in the race and talk to folks differently that way because they just have so many choices, and you've got to tell them why you're the best candidate.
Yeah, and that's good, and that's challenging in and of itself, especially when we're coming from a situation. I know at that time it was. Because there was a lot of people that had trusted that representative, and there was some letting down that took place. People were kind of just wanting to make sure that if you came to their door and you told them what you told them, that you were being honest, that you were genuine, and that you would do what you said you were going to do. Mm-hmm. So okay, so then we flip it around. Now you have this. I won, but you kind of went into it knowing that regardless, you're going to have a primary, and then you're going to have a general.
Right.
But when you're talking about moving in now from, okay, I was successful here, but I've got to move into trying to unseat this current incumbent, which is very, very, very difficult to do in any stretch of imagination. What was it like right after that? I mean, was it you hit the ground running?
There was no time off, definitely. When you move into a general, then you get the backing of the state party and the leadership in the Kansas House, and so there's a lot more conversations at that point. I think during the primary, especially a four-way, you're more on your own, and the party doesn't get behind you until they know that you're their guy. So yeah, it was that next day when the phone starts ringing and you realize, okay, it's time to get down to business, and we're here to get rid of the Democrat.
Yeah. So when you were running for, going out there and knocking on doors, and I'm going to say not so much a primary, but when you started moving into the general and you started making contact with people, what did you ever have any negative experiences while doing that?
Sure.
Where you were just like, wow, whoa, hey, or I mean, it can't all be peachy keen.
No.
So
yeah, there's well, I know you've knocked on many doors yourself, but yeah, doors are slammed on you. People tell you to get off the property, and you just be respectful, and that's all you can do. Move on to the next one. In a house district, there's 23,000 people, so one person tells you that, you put a smile on your face and move on.
Do you think you confronted that a lot?
No, I think our district and Kansas as a whole, I mean, I think we're respectful people. But politics in today's day and age has just gotten so divided that it happens. But no, I as a whole, I think most people are respectful regardless of party.
Yeah, I agree with that. Social media. Would
That's
you say the same thing about social media?
Story. Yeah, when you're on somebody's doorstep, I think they tend to be more respectful. When they're at the laptop, it's different. Yeah, the Facebook comments, I had to fend some of my family members off and say, hey, just don't look at them. It doesn't bother me, but yeah, some people they get behind the screen and say some things.
They go low.
Yep,
they go low. Do you find yourself just as an individual, just trying to kind of get down to the character Avery, right? Mm-hmm. When you're confronted with a situation like that, do you feel any need to try to engage or try to create some dialogue with people like that?
Yeah, no, I try not to. I don't think you're ever going to win it on social media. If they're coming at you as negative as some folks do, you're probably not going to win their vote or even have them respect you at the end of the day. So I try to just not to engage to certain folks.
Yeah. And it's sad because I know this. I've many times looked back and thought, well, if I never would have tried to serve my community and put myself out there in a way that and I'm sure this is the same with you.
Yeah.
You wouldn't be incurring all that.
Right.
Nobody'd be doing that to you. Nobody'd be even really worried too much about what Avery's got going on until all of a sudden Avery steps up into a leadership position, and then it's like some people just are interesting.
Absolutely. Yeah. And if those folks that make up fake names on the internet and post comments, if they call my cell phone, it's public. I'll have a chat with them, and they can email me and come meet with me. But yeah, no, on Facebook, I try not to engage.
Yeah. I try to be respectful and polite as much as I can, especially when people are going for low blows. So the general election was somewhat different because that was during the COVID pandemic. So can you kind of explain what obstacles you felt that you experienced because of that?
Yeah. So I think at a local election, like I said, 23,000 folks in the district, the number one way to get out and tell people why you're the best candidate and you should represent them is knocking on the door. And that made it difficult with COVID, but still went out, ring the doorbell, take 5 or 6 steps back, and just if they have an issue with it, move on. But most people, as long as you were, distanced, you could still have a conversation. But it did make it more difficult. You wear masks, and you just give the precaution. So if those folks, felt like you didn't want to overstep your boundary with some people.
You're trying to respect them.
Exactly.
For all intents and purposes, you're showing them that you're respected.
Yep.
So then take me back to election night, right? You're doing this the second time around.
Yep.
Okay. And you've done everything you can. You've knocked on all the doors. It's that day. You're at that point where nothing else you can do. You're grappling with yourself type thing. What was in your head?
Yeah. Once again, it was sort of like the primary. I didn't go into it feeling like, okay, we've got this 100%. I felt good. I had seen some polling right before, and it looked positive. It was a coin flip, which to me, if you're running against an incumbent, you're in a coin flip race. I think that's positive.
Yes.
I think at the end of the day, the folks of Newton and Harvey County just felt like it was time for a change, and we saw that on election night.
Well, you're not the youngest representative. You're like the second youngest representative, right?
We'll be the youngest come January.
Okay.
The one younger than me lost in the primary this cycle.
Okay. I'll keep my political. Yeah. So you get to be the representative that's the youngest Kansas state representative serving. Were you the youngest elected? I tried to look on some data, man, and I hate to say it, but
no,
that's all revolving.
Yeah. So Representative Coleman out of Wyandotte was younger than I was.
So you're the second youngest. So you're the youngest Republican then.
Youngest Republican.
Okay,
yes.
and he would be the youngest Democrat.
Correct.
And you didn't have a challenger, and he got unseated.
He did.
Okay, just wanted to clarify that.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So, once you're there, I mean, I was there. You had a pretty good showing of people there on your, for your watch party. So there was a lot of people there, supporting you. And I remember saying, I hope you win, because obviously it's not immediate. You don't know. You look at it, and it's looking good, right? So I remember just thinking as I left there, man, I bet Avery has lot on his mind right now. And so take me to that. Okay. You're there and you're watching that first bolt comes out. It looks good. Still don't know. I mean, is there any kind of are you about ready just to fall out? All these people are here, they're watching me. If I lose, everybody's here,
Absolutely. So it being my first race outside of the primary, I didn't know what to expect. And so when the first dump came in, and it's typically how it goes with advanced ballots and mail. We were down, and it slowly trickled away, and worked out at the end of the night. But it was a stressful one for sure. But by the end, it was great. We had a lot of folks there, and it was a blast. Yeah,
because after that, if I remember, after that first came in, it was early in mail-in ballots, I think is what a lot of them were. Then those. That second time around, it was pretty obvious.
Yeah.
I mean, when that second bump came, it's like, man, that's probably not gonna,
Yeah, election day voting was big that cycle, and it favored Republicans heavy.
Yeah. So you get elected. The next day, did anything change?
No.
The next day after.
Yeah, my phone rang a lot. Outside of that, then it was start talking to other elected officials at the state level and try to prepare. We had leadership elections a month after that, and so you start talking to folks running for leadership, and then a few weeks after that, you're going and hitting the road running, and it was. It's kind of like drinking through a fire hose, is what everyone says. Yep. You have a lot to learn.
And that is the truth.
Yeah,
that is a true statement. So you're there. I think the first day of session, right? You go in there and everybody's there, and then they sing "Home on the Range."
Yeah, right.
Right. That's a pretty surreal experience.
Yeah. It was a blast walking in the House chamber. So the night before session started, I walked around the Capitol with my family and kind of looked around, walked in the House chamber, and it was very neat. And then when you're there on the first day, you get sworn in, and it was surreal.
Surreal.
Yeah,
that's a good word for that. Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. You got pictures and all
that.
Absolutely. Yeah, good. So you get there, you're drinking out of the fire hose, and I know it's probably something that happened real fast, but can you kind of explain how it came about for you to understand what its typical duties are? I mean, you get there, you kind of know what you're supposed to do, but what's the typical day look like for a representative?
Yeah, so I interned there in college, and I thought going into it that I had a little idea of how Topeka worked because I interned there. I didn't. You get there, and it's completely different sitting on the other side. The day starts 8 a.m. We have our caucus meeting, or Republican meeting, and talk about what's going on, what bills are coming across the floor, and then you have your committee hearings start at 9:30, and committees all day, and you go to the floor in the middle. So yeah, it's a busy day. You meet with constituents, you meet with lobbyists. And then get ready for the next day. And there's 1,300 bills introduced, and there's a lot to track.
Okay, so breaking that down a bit, you said committee hearings.
Yep.
You go to committee hearings. So for somebody that might not know, a committee is what? And then, are you on one, or how does that? Just kind of explain that.
Sure. So most legislators in the House are on 3 or 4 committees, and it's split up between Republicans, Democrats, and I have a 9 a.m., a 1, a 3, and you just go to multiple committees a day. That's where folks can come up from the district around the state of Kansas and testify, and that's where the legislation begins. It passes out of the committee and then comes to the House chamber, and then it goes to the Senate, and they run it through their committee, and then it goes to the governor.
Okay, when you say committee, it's broken down into multiple committees. So what committee are you on?
Yep. So I sit on Commerce and Labor, Energy and Utilities, Financial Institutions, and General Government Budget. We have a few budget subcommittees that they're a subcommittee for appropriations, which is the almighty, the tax committee. That's where all the budgets are held there, and then the other committees are policy committees, and like Commerce Committee deals with Kansas businesses, and I sit on Energy and Utilities, and Avery and all the utility companies, and they're always coming in and testifying and wanting what's best for their company.
Yeah, and then people that likewise. I mean, it's open,
Absolutely.
right? So if a bill comes forth and it has something to do with energy,
Yep.
then it goes to your committee.
Correct.
And then so they break all of these possible legislative bills down into different categories.
Yep.
And whatever category that is goes to the committee, correct?
Yeah, so the speaker sends the bills where he believes they best fit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And then once you do that within that committee,
Mm-hmm.
how does the bill make it from your committee to the floor of the House?
Yep. So it just passes out simple majority.
Okay.
And then it goes to the floor of the House where the entire body votes on it.
Okay. So if someone were to say, if I was to say, Avery, I really think that I'd like something to be done different with our criminal justice system.
Yep.
Okay. Even though you're my representative and I call you about that, would that be a situation where you would just refer me to someone else? Or
So if I can help you with the question, I'll absolutely attempt to. But there's a criminal justice committee chaired by Representative Owens next door, and so he does a phenomenal job with that. And it's up to the next speaker, which should be Dan Hawkins, and he'll choose the next chairs. And so we'll see if Representative Owens keeps that or does something else. Okay. But at the time, probably refer you to that chairman, and he can help you out.
Okay, so you're on these committees,
Yep.
But every year there's a possibility that they could just, I say they,
Sure.
but it would be your House Majority Leader,
Yep.
and they would make the decision of what committee you're on just by fiat.
Yeah.
I mean, they get elected by everybody to be the leader, and then they tell everybody, hey, I'm delegating this responsibility to you.
Right. So we go up early December for leadership elections, and it's every 2 years we do this. Okay. So right after the election. And the speaker, after he's elected or she, through our caucus, the Republicans, they have full authority to do whatever they'd like with committees, and they're also in charge of offices where we sit on the floor, even down to the parking spots in the garage.
Really?
Yep.
Huh. Interesting. That's good knowledge to have. There's a lot of authority to come from a majority leader.
There is.
That's interesting. So since you've been elected, what's one thing or something that's personally been the most challenging thing you've experienced so far?
Yeah. I think it's one of the more fulfilling things, but also challenging things, is constituent contact. I absolutely love it, but there are times, especially my first year with like unemployment, we had a bunch of unemployment fraud in the state, and folks could not get into the Department of Labor. They couldn't get their phone calls answered. And just to hear the stories that come from people, I mean, there are neighbors here in Newton and Harvey County. It's tough to hear that sometimes, but you just got to keep pushing and try to get them as much help as they can. And that was a specific issue with unemployment, but there's issues all the time, a wide variety of them. And so, but it's also great when you can help them out and get them what they need.
Yeah, you're getting hundreds of emails a day.
Yep.
So for those listening, if your representative takes the time to respond to you, that's a pretty big deal just in general.
Try to get back to everybody. Like I said earlier, phone calls or phone numbers public. Give me a call, and I'd love to chat. But, yep, email, get back to everybody as soon as possible.
Very good. So you explained the challenge, right?
Yep.
What's something that's just been a surreal situation? So what's the thing you've enjoyed the most?
Yeah. Getting to see a lot of things that I don't think I would have before. Get a tour nuclear plants and go see the prisons around the state. And I like to take advantage of those opportunities every chance I get. Because when this is done, those invitations stop. But I think that not only do they help when you come back and deal with constituents and it gives you a breadth of knowledge of what's going on around the state, but it just helps you in Topeka when you're deciding how to vote on issues and debating legislation. So yeah, that has kind of been one of the bigger deals that I've enjoyed in Topeka, is getting around and seeing everything around the state.
Yeah, I think that would be a really exciting opportunity. Yeah. It's definitely put some. It's interesting that you said that, because I think a common misconception that a lot of people have is that like you're supposed to be the know-it-all.
Yeah,
right. You're supposed to have all the answers. Another thing I think is interesting is, why can't you do something about this? I come to you with some problem that I have, and I'm asking you why you can't do something. Mm-hmm. And then when you have to explain the bureaucracy of government, like you've done, and it's not so easy on the communication point, right. Sometimes. And so it's, to me, very comforting that you're somebody that would definitely want to go and be there in those places so you can learn as much as you can.
Yep.
Because you can't be a know-it-all, can you?
You can't. You can't.
I mean, have you ever had to just say, I don't know, and that's just not accepting, somebody not accept that?
Right. Well, and there's 25, 27 some committees, and like I said, I sit on 4 of them, and so you can't know what's going on everywhere. If there's legislation going on in another committee, you may hear about it, but you're really not going to talk about it until it hits the House floor, and then you're voting on it. Yeah. There's a lot of legislation that goes by that you don't necessarily get to see until it's in front of you. We don't have a bunch of staff up in Topeka personally, and every bill that comes up you can't follow, and so it's tough to be a know-it-all.
Yeah. And then something I've heard a lot of representatives that I've talked to over time, and just you could maybe affirm this or not, but that when you step foot in Topeka day one, it's a rat race until session is over. Yep. I mean, it's like trying to do 5 years worth of work in 6 months.
Yeah, and technically we're up there for 90 days is the legislative session, and so it goes quick. You cram a lot into those 90 days. We don't start the budget committees till 3 weeks in. You've got to prepare it, and so that even gives you less time. And so it's like you said, it's a rat race.
Yeah. And just going in a little bit more on that. I know when I was looking at the prospect of what that job entails, it's very difficult, especially when you think about family dynamics. Mm-hmm. You think about it, and you really come to the understanding that the people that are doing that are serving. Yep. They're serving. And I think that's lost on a lot of people. But, when you go up there and you're in the rat race and you're there for 90 days, then you still have to come back here and have a life.
Right.
So that complicates what Avery could do in his career.
Yep.
Right. You know, and you really are, because it's not a great paying job. I mean, for anybody that thinks that you're going to go buy a nice car on a representative's wage, it's probably not going to happen.
Yep. $88 a day.
$88 a day.
Yep.
Just think about that. It's unbelievable. And many times, and I'm not going to even get you into this, but yeah, I've thought about maybe the possibility of them, hopefully at some point in time, choosing to compensate some of our representatives a little more, because I think, this is my opinion, that in states that have full-time legislatures, that they can be somewhat more productive because there's more time. It's a professional legislature.
Yeah, the conversation comes up every year, but it's tough to move. The deal is the legislature is the one that would have to vote for a pay increase, and it's always a difficult conversation, and it just hasn't happened. I think since the mid '80s, they've been paying $88 a day.
Yeah, that's crazy. Okay, well, thank you, Avery.
Yeah,
and as always, whoever our guest is, we just give them an open mic to say whatever you would like to say to everybody listening.
Yeah.
Speak directly to the hearts and minds of Harvey County. What do you got?
Well, I think the timing is perfect for this, because I'd just like to say to Newton, Whitewater, City of Sedgwick, and the rest of Harvey County that I represent, thank you for putting me in for another 2 years. I enjoyed the first 2 and tried to work every day for the constituents of the 72nd District, and hope to do that for another 2 years and talk to as many folks as possible. But really appreciate everybody's faith in me to lead the 72nd District.
All right, no pressure.
Yeah, that's right.
No pressure. Thank you, Avery. Well, there you have it, folks. And thanks for listening to this episode of Harvey County Talk. Good day, good night, or good riddance. Either way, we hope to catch you next time. Tune in or tune out.